Hello, Internet, and welcome to the Free-to-Play Cast, episode 125. We're recording on January 21st, 2015. You're watching it on January 22nd, 2015. I'm Mike Byrne, aka Magicman, your host, brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. No Brim this week. It was nice having him last week. He will be in and out here. Maybe some other familiar faces popping in and out as well. But joining me like he always does, you know him, you love him, the man with the plan, Mr. Jason Winter. How are you?
Well, they know me. I'm not sure they love me, though.
People love you. They love the stuff you write.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, too, this is going to be the last time that we do a free-to-play cast where the episode number is a perfect cube until number 216.
Ooh. All right. A little tip for you mathematically inclined individuals out there. All right. We've got, we do have a lot to cover, but we're going to be pretty much exclusively part of the news. We have 3 topics for you, but I'm going to be honest with you guys right off the bat. Really, one of those topics is going to take the bulk of the news time, and then the other 2 will probably go through pretty quickly. And I don't have footage for the first one because we're kind of holding off on the first look for this. So let me throw the news bump in here, and then we'll tell you why. All right, let's get started here. So H1Z1 by Sony Online Entertainment went into, well, Jason, it tried to go into.
It tried to go into early access on Thursday.
Yeah, tried to go into early access alpha on the 15th. Didn't go so well. Yeah, basically didn't work for most people, just about everybody. There were a couple people that were able to get in and stream it, but for about 24 to 36 hours there, it was really dicey on if you could even get into the game. Now, first off, we're going to talk about the game itself in a minute, but I found that a little unusual. We've seen, World of Warcraft had huge problems with Warlords of Draenor's launch and the influx of players on the server. And I've always kind of thought, well, Blizzard should know better, right? And then Final Fantasy XIV, when it launched, was A Realm Reborn, the second version, when it launched, was a disaster as far as being able to log in a reasonable amount of time as well. And I thought, yeah, Square Enix should kind of know better. I give them a little bit of slack in that truly, those 2 companies and the way they sell their products, they don't actually have an exact estimated number. They can guess, but if they're off by 150,000, that could be a big deal, right? They sell 200,000 boxes to one retailer. They don't actually know if 200,000 boxes are leaving the shelf for day one. So I give them a little bit of a leeway there. In this one, though, Sony Online Entertainment knew exactly how many press passes it gave out, so they knew the number of media that they were giving access to. We were included. Full disclosure, I did not pay for the alpha. I don't believe you paid for the alpha either, did you? Yeah, full disclosure, we were given access to it, so everybody else had to pay $19.99, and you only could purchase that directly through Sony. So Sony had the exact numbers on hand for how many people were going to be accessing on day one, or at least trying to access on day one. Were you surprised there were issues, or do you give them a little slack? How do you feel?
Well, one weird thing about it, though, is they weren't accepting those payments until really late. You couldn't buy the game through Steam, which is how you got it. You couldn't buy that until not less than a week before this went live. So even if they'd suddenly had seen, oh my God, we've got twice as many people as we expected, they're going to just run out and buy a bunch more servers or whatever they're planning to do. So on some level, I don't know that they could have predicted a whole lot in terms other than just whatever general concepts they had. But I do agree with you on the notion, these big companies, Blizzard, SOE, Square Enix, I even think, how was Arch? I mean, ArcheAge had the queues, but I don't think
it was exorbitantly long queue times.
Yeah, so I mean, but even Tryon or some other companies like that, you'd figure they should have it kind of figured out a little better. And the other thing, especially about H1Z1, is at least when you're talking about a typical MMO, World of Warcraft or something, there's going to be, I don't know what the capacity is on a server, 1,000, 2,000, whatever, 5,000. Whereas each server in H1Z1 is only 100 people. So you'd think that knowing that that's the max, that they could have planned for that a little bit, and that it would be generally less stressful. Because they talk about how they could have up to 2,000 people on a server, which is what PlanetSide 2 has, but they don't because that's not how this game kind of works. So you'd think that, again, on that level, they would have it all figured out, knowing it's a Forge Light engine, everything they've done before. So yeah, I am a little surprised that, and I've now almost gotten to the point where I'm like, well, if they can't do it with all of this they've got figured out, we're never going to see a smooth launch.
Right. And like, I give them the benefit of the doubt on issues in-game. It's alpha.
Yeah.
And John Smedley was very transparent, saying, look, if you expect even what DayZ has now in this game when you access it on the 15th, don't buy it. Because it's just not there yet. We've got lots of plans and development continues. There's going to be bugs. I mean, they were very transparent. So I expected in-game issues. I was kind of surprised and kind of chuckled and maybe threw a few barbs out on Twitter about it. Just thinking, I'm a little surprised that there's login issues. So they fixed those after about 24 to 36 hours, and for the most part, I haven't had any problems accessing the game. After they resolved those issues, I haven't had any DC problems either. I haven't been disconnecting. I think you disconnected once, maybe?
I did once, yeah.
Yeah. So it seems to be in a pretty stable area now. So let's talk about and kind of put it out there for the viewers. If you haven't shelled out the $19.99 and you're kind of on the fence, maybe should I want to, I don't know. Let's kind of give our thoughts here and see if we can't guide you a little bit on this $20 investment. We haven't put up a first look for the video yet, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that it just wasn't accessible for a while. Also, Jason and I are going to be taking, we're going to treat it as a duo first look, because this kind of game could get very boring to watch one person play for 20 minutes, because you never know. In 20 minutes, absolutely nothing could happen.
See, if all else fails, we'll just throw it out and fight each other.
Exactly.
If we could find each other on the map, I have trouble doing that. So.
Yeah, so it's one of those games that we're going to do a two-person first look, and Spunkify and I have done that with other games because of the very nature of the game. So let's get into the game itself. Yes, there's bugs. I don't want to spend too much time on them. There's some hysterical ones.
The car out of the tree.
The car out of the tree was amazing.
Well, I think they fixed that.
Was amazing. Floating arrows is another thing. That's all alpha stuff. I want to talk first about airdrops, which is probably the biggest controversy of the entire early access alpha launch to date, right?
Yep.
If you don't know what airdrops are in H1Z1, you have the ability to use an airdrop item, which will then send a plane over the area to drop in a crate of supplies. Those supplies could be anything from food to machine guns to ammo. There was a lot of different options inside those airdrops. And they were initially set, and it seemed like the drop rates weren't quite right, because everybody that was using them was getting weapons and ammo, which is scarce in the game. The drops were coming in very close to the players. And the idea is that Jason could call an airdrop and I could sneak in there and grab the stuff ahead of time. If we were on a PvP server, I could kill Jason before I went and grabbed the stuff that he got. The controversy comes in that airdrops are only obtainable using real-life currency. So pay to win went wild, didn't it?
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to talk if you didn't have anything else.
Yeah, go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, yeah, that was what happened. And there was a long thread on Reddit. Just, I mean, it was as vile as it ever gets on the internet. Yeah, pay to win screaming, people demanding refunds, and they actually gave in. They allowed the ability to give refunds if you tried that and didn't like it. Smedley said that, I don't know, as of like about a day after announcing that 0.5% of people had taken them up on it. So, again, it's probably a loud minority. Most people that I have talked to or that I see streaming or whatever aren't troubled by it. Some of them are making fun of the people who are troubled by it. So, but yeah, it did make a big impact on people.
Now, they have since updated airdrops and made a few changes. One, they've kind of added a few more zombies to the mix, just to, even if you're on a PvE server, to cause confusion and havoc trying to go in there and pick up your airdrop. They also readjusted some of the loot drops and surprisingly published the actual percentages. So now when you call in an airdrop, you have a 10% chance of actually getting a crate that contains a weapon or ammunition of some type. I believe there was, in the post John had posted, there was 2 different crates that had weapons and or ammo
in them. Lone Wolf.
Right. And those only have a 10%.
Which come with zombies, which is
right.
Neat.
They only have a 10% chance of actually dropping. So let me put it out there for you now. Now that it's been revamped, I love the idea on paper. I really do. Looking at it, I'm like, that's kind of neat. They also changed where the thing will drop in relationship to the player that called it to try and give them a little bit of an edge without...
The distance and also the speed at which it happens.
Right.
Respond to it.
Just to change, give them a little bit of an advantage without sacrificing the whole point of the event. I love them on paper. The way they were initially implemented and we saw streamed was awful, and I agreed, this is pay to win. Unless you give me... I thought a nice solution would have been if they really didn't want to change anything, which Smedley didn't initially. He felt, they really liked the way this thing worked. I thought a cool way to do it would have been everybody gets 1 airdrop per day, free or not. If you pay, you can use 3, up to 3 in 1 day. Or some type of modifier like that. Now that they've changed the rates and the distance and the speed and everything... Am I happy that there's ammo and stuff in the boxes? Not necessarily. But do I think it's pay to win now? I personally don't. What about you?
Yeah, I don't feel that way either. I think a lot of it was that they just kind of developed in a bubble. They even Sped even says on that post, the dev team loves airdrops. They're testing every time we use one. They were highly contested. So you saw, yeah, we had a lot of fun with it in development. But you got to add the money aspect to it. Of course, they don't pay for their own airdrops. So
right.
That's where I think they really kind of came up short, was in getting a proper feel for how that was going to be, for the community and how they were going to feel about it with the whole money aspect put in as well. And anytime you know how it is, any free-to-play game, if you even remotely sniff the notion of spend money, get gear, if you're within 1,000 miles of that, it is going to be screamed at by a certain amount of people, and you need to be ready to deal with that. Whether it's actually pay to win or not, it's going to be talked about. And I feel like, at the very least, they weren't as ready to deal with it as they should have been, and that's led to a lot of the teeth gnashing and a lot of the, it almost seems like backtracking on some level. So, yeah, I don't think it is pay to win. I can agree that I still wonder about how people could manipulate. Like if you have a group of 4 or 5 people, friends, if you could kind of cordon off an area and then call in an airdrop without allowing you to loot up quickly.
Right.
That's still, I think, a possibility, and something they're going to have to look at throughout alpha and throughout the whole testing process. But that's what this is. This is a way to test this out, to see how it goes. If it really is awful and they just can't find a way to make it work, they'll change it more, or they'll get rid of it entirely, maybe. So I don't have a problem. I certainly don't have a problem with it being in the game right now. Even if you want to call it blatant pay to win, we're still less than a week after the game has gone in early access, so it can change. So I'm not concerned about it at this moment.
And for God's sakes, don't hack or do anything in the game, because they are ban happy at the moment.
I'm still worried about that one guy who thought I was a hacker. I'm worried I'm going to log into my character.
Sony Online is ban happy at the moment, which is a good thing. People are hacking and stuff. They do a nice job. I got to give it to Sony Online. They do a nice job in PlanetSide 2 with that, so I would expect them to do a nice job in
It took them a little while to get onto it in PlanetSide 2.
Yeah.
A couple months. I was still seeing stuff like 3-4 months afterwards, but I haven't really noticed anything in my recent play. So, in other words, it's going to be there. I'm sure if you Google search for H1Z1 hacks, you can find tons of sites for it right now, but they'll probably get on that pretty well at some point.
So you and I basically agree on the airdrops portion, and I think from here on out we're probably going to disagree on a few things as we work our way through H1Z1 here. So first off, Forge Light Engine, let's just talk visual aspect. I do agree with you in the piece that you wrote. I think they nailed the atmosphere. The game looks great. For what it's supposed to be, a survival horror kind of tense experience against these, zombie apocalypse and other players if you're on a PvP server. So atmosphere-wise, I think they're doing a really nice job, and I would expect that to just get better and better and better. Yes? We agree there?
Yeah.
Okay. And now we get into the game itself. I think it's boring as shit.
All right.
And that's coming from somebody that liked DayZ, just hated the interface.
Okay. All right.
I enjoyed DayZ. I hate the interface. I like H1Z1's interface. Very minimal right now. Very minimal. The crafting system, although not fully fleshed out yet, obviously it's an alpha. I mean, the menus, it's easy to use, it's easy to figure out, and thank God, because you don't get any hints or tips. It's not an MMORPG where you have training quests along the way.
Sure.
That's not the way this works. And they did a nice job constructing this stuff that you, within a few clicks, you, oh, okay, all right, now I get how to make that, or how do I do this? How do I do? Oh, okay, you know, it's very intuitive. You can pick it up pretty quickly. But I just find the game boring at this point, and I don't know if that has to do with zombies kind of seem sparse for me for this type of game. Like, even when I get into what would be a civilized area where you would expect more zombies to be, I'm in no danger in most cases.
Yeah, that's really weird. They seem like they really toned that down from the builds that I played at SOE Live. And the zombies and just the AI in general. Because there was one, I mean, the bears were just absolute murderers when I played it before, and they still can be. But I had this one case where a bear just kind of walked down the street, and I shot it like 4 times with my arrow, and it just like.
Yeah, and I don't get the feeling that when I'm unarmed that a zombie is a threat, and I should.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as I see a zombie, I just kind of look and I'm like, okay, is it just one or is there like 3 there? Oh, it's just one. All right, let me run up and punch him a few times real quick so I can loot him. So it doesn't quite capture that for me yet. That's obviously something that they will probably tweak, because I'm sure a lot of people aren't afraid of the zombies, which is kind of the point of the game.
Yeah.
And so they'll probably tweak that over time. But as it stands right now, I'm not scared. And if there's a pack of zombies, the AI is readily abusable at this point, where you can chain things and get them stuck and run around, and so I'm not really having a lot of fun. One thing that a lot of people hated, you mentioned it, and this is one that you and I agree on. Apparently, humans will die if they don't have a drink of water and a sandwich every 2 hours.
They did reduce that.
They did finally reduce that.
They did, yeah, reduce the amount at which your hunger and thirst deplete themselves. So,
which they had to, because it was ridiculous. And
I mentioned too on my streams, like when DayZ Standalone first launched, it was kind of the same way. It was really harsh. You couldn't go if you were like half an hour, you'd be dead of starvation.
For the first few days, it was Berry Simulator 2015. Just get yourself berries, eat them, and that's it.
Yeah.
So if it was coming from me, I think the game's boring. What are your general impressions of the game as a whole so far?
I'm surprised to hear that you say you liked DayZ, but you think that this is boring. And I'm going to ask you that, zombies are no threat in DayZ. You can run for like an hour without seeing anybody. So what's different about H1Z1 that makes you hate that but like DayZ?
I don't hate H1Z1.
By
the way, I think it will get there, because I think I'm not alone in these opinions, on some of these opinions, and I think there's a lot of people, including the people that work at Sony. They may already have builds that are a little more aggressive, like you played at PAC or at SOE Live, and are planning to move in that direction. That's fine. In DayZ, I actually do feel threatened by zombies in particular circumstances. Yes, you're right. You could do the same thing in DayZ, where if you get a cluster of zombies within like a residential area, it's very easy to get everything clipped up behind you on buildings and fences and bushes and not have to worry about it. But if I see 1 or 2 zombies in DayZ and I'm unarmed, I have a much higher probability of dying than when I see 1 or 2 zombies in H1Z1 right now, where I know, okay, I could take on 2. I'll just keep backing up and punching as I do it. So I think a lot of that may not have to do with the sheer number of zombies. I don't think adding more zombies is the answer. I think they probably have put the baseline AI in for alpha and maybe have some more aggressive, intelligent AIs that they're going to be adding and working towards over time, like you mentioned in the SOE Live build that you played.
Yeah, a lot of the complaints I heard about being boring were about the PvE aspects of it and how that, especially on a PvE server, it's not that great. But yeah, speaking to talking about how they're
and I don't share those opinions. I did not expect this to be like quest driven, and no, I knew exactly what I was getting into with this.
But I mean, like what you're saying too about them improving on it. I think the core is there. It's got a decent enough core, and you can still, of course, more or less ignore zombies, just go about killing people. So as long as it's got that, has the looting, has the survival aspects of it, it is on that level more or less like what DayZ is. So my opinion is sort of like if you shelled out $30 for DayZ, and you like that, you might as well spend $20 on this because it gives you that same core. And like you said, they are going to improve upon it, and you can still do a lot of the basic stuff. So if you're okay with that, if you're okay with something on the level of DayZ, although I still feel like H1Z1 is less buggy overall.
I would definitely agree there.
Yeah.
100%. Even in alpha, yes.
If you like DayZ but are just still ticked off about the crazy, zombies walking through walls stuff that still goes on, then yeah, $20 for this, or even $40 if you want the deluxe package. I think it's a decent deal. If you are still of the, and you know me, I am not Mr. Oh, I want to get into early access all the time sort of thing. That's definitely not me. But seeing that they've got the basic parts, I haven't even gotten into like any of the base building or any of that, any of the major construction or whatever. But I probably would have bought it. I probably would have paid my $20 to get in because it still has the core of the game, and it's something they're just going to expand on from here on out. So if that's what you want to do, if you just want to go around and kill stuff and kill people mostly, because like you said, the zombies are not that big of a deal. If you want to do that, I think you should go ahead and try it.
All right, so your suggestion, if somebody's on the fence about spending the money to get into early access, if you're at least on the fence, you're suggesting go ahead and do it.
If you're okay with DayZ, I'd say if that game, if you like how that goes, and you still want to get into something different, and you don't, then you go ahead and pay the $20.
I, on the other hand, I'm going to tell you, if you're on the fence, hold off.
Okay.
The only reason I'm telling you that is if you're on the fence about spending $20 or $40 to get into the early access, hold off. Because, yes, it's an alpha. I understand that. It's going to change. I'm just being honest. Had I not been given a key by Sony, I would not have bought my way into the early access. Because I know what alphas look like, and I'm not interested in forming my opinions of a game based on an alpha. I'd rather see something more in-depth and consumer ready. So I would say if you're on the fence, there's not enough there that's going to make you feel really, really good about your purchase yet. After you've made it, you're going to have fun. I have fun playing it. There are times that it's more fun than others because of the very nature of this type of game. But if you're not sure if you want to spend the money, I'd say hold off. Wait till beta, close beta, and they'll probably still have some type of buy-in then. Or, of course, wait until open beta / launch when it will be free and you won't have to spend anything. So, nice, 2 different opinions. Overall, I got to give the game a thumbs up, though. I feel like I don't want to be misconstrued, and I'm being very harsh on it. I understand it's alpha, and I do enjoy it. I'm just finding that I'm having more boring sections than fun sections, but they're things that, looking at, I realize will probably change over time. Is that fair? I mean, I think I'm being fair, right?
Yeah, more or less.
More or less. All right, let's move on. Next up, Skyforge. So Skyforge put out a new dev diary, finally, that shows a bit of actual information. Until now, we've had pretty much more questions than answers on Skyforge in some of the systems, and even the one more, I would say, in-depth video that we talked about on a previous show where we had a Cryomancer and a Paladin running a dungeon, it really didn't tell us much. However, this new dev diary kind of really details the combat system, and I thought it went nicely into depth here. Can you tab target? Yes. Do you need to? No. It does rely on positions and dodging, and each class has its own dodging mechanic in addition to sprint. So would it be fair to say it's tab targeting leaning more to the action-y side? Would be a nice way to put it, I guess.
That's what it seems like a few MMOs are doing. Like they're not straight up tab target, but they're not straight up action combat either. I mean, look at Guild Wars 2 like that. Neverwinter has kind of a soft tab targeting. So yeah, a lot of games that aren't quite going for the full-on, action combat, but still want to be able to give you some sort of quote-unquote easy mode with the tab targeting. A lot of them are doing that these days.
I did think it was cool that the devs took you into detail on how it evolved. Like initially, the combat was built like a typical World of Warcraft MMORPG with hotbars and all that jazz. But what they were trying to do with the game as they developed it, it really just didn't work for what they were trying to create.
Originally, it was World of Warcraft combat, but then they realized it's 2015.
So then they kind of took inspiration inspiration from like Devil May Cry and console games like that, with a more actiony combat where you do have positioning matter, and even a combo system. So your melee classes have combo systems. Your ranged classes do not, because it just really didn't work using arrows as a combo and spells as a combo. So on the flip side, they've given the casters and the ranged players different charged attacks. So you might have one specific attack, but you have 3 different charged variations of it. And totally eliminated that hotbar and went for that more streamlined first-person, third-person shooter where the mouse controls the camera type thing, kind of like Terra does, is the best way to put it for me. I really like this video. If you haven't seen it, check it out on mmobomb.com. If you're interested in Skyforge, I think it does provide a nice tidbit of information, finally, on what you're going to be able to expect from at least the combat, which is very, very important in this type of MMORPG. Were you a fan of it, or did you still not interested? I know Skyforge isn't too high on your list, besides the fact that we know the community manager. But just as a game in itself, you haven't really been looking forward to this one, right?
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I like a lot of what they talked about and how they said how they got to the evolution of this and so on. And it does look, reasonably good. Like I said, it's not full on one thing or the other. It's kind of a mix of both. It's going to be tough to tell until you actually get your hands on it and get to play with it. We could watch a video and hear people talk about it, but you're going to play it and you're going to feel it. You're either going to feel it or you're not going to feel it. So it's tough to make too much of a judgment at this point, but it's a nice thing to look at. What I kind of key on, though, is a quote they said right near the beginning of it. They said, if your combat is boring, no matter what the other features your game has, people won't play it for long. And I'm just the opposite. I'm totally the opposite of that. Because we talked about this before. I know I talked about it with some people with regards to WildStar. People were like, "Oh man, the WildStar combat is so great. You dodge, you move. There's all these tells. You got to do all this other stuff." And I'm like, "Okay, that's cool. What do you actually do in it?" "Oh, you do fetch quests and grinds and dungeons." I'm like, "Oh, I don't care what my combat is. If that's what I have to do with it, I don't want it. I'd rather have a
all you need to make an MMO RPG that Jason Winter will love. All you need. I'm going to give you developers the secret right now. Okay? The combat can be mediocre. He'll play a hotbar game. He'll play an action game. Doesn't matter. He'll play both. So do whatever you like on that front. Avoid quests like that, if you can. But if you can't, it's okay. He still plays Lord of the Rings Online. He'll do those quests if he has to.
That's kind of been grandfathered into my preferences.
Here's the one thing you can do, and Jason Winter will sub. And I'm warning you viewers right now, I've only done this on the free-to-play cast twice in 100-some episodes. I'm going to drop an F-bomb here. Don't fuck up your inventory system.
I like to.
You screw that up, Jason's not playing. You get it right, he's going to sub for life. Don't worry about it.
That is definitely one of the big deals. But yeah, I mean, the Skyforge dev video I want to see talks about their content. And
I agree.
Kind of saw that with the dungeons, but again, it's like, oh, hey, it's a dungeon.
I agree. And I think that's coming because obviously we're having beta in spring, so we're not too far.
But that's the part that I really want to see because they've talked about these world invasions or whatever they are, and that's what I really want to see how those go.
Speaking of terrible inventory systems...
the granddaddy of them all.
The granddaddy of terrible inventory systems. The Elder Scrolls Online... Got some big news. It just broke today as of the 21st here, recording it. We posted it on the site. We've held a memoriam because it will be the last time that we in-depth talk about Elder Scrolls or cover it on the site. For now. Elder Scrolls is officially going buy to play. So if you own the game already on the PC, you're golden. Essentially,
can we just have the buy-to-play cast instead? We cover like 4 games.
Yeah, 4 games just over and over and over and over again. On the PC, the subscription will be removed. The subscription requirement, I should say, will be removed March 17th. You can still sub if you want. You will get the DLC that's released for free. You will get monthly crowns allowances for the cow shop, and of course you'll have bonuses probably to experience and stuff like that by being a subscriber. But it will not be required. It's being redubbed. And was I the only one? Please tell me that you did this too. It's called the Elder Scrolls Online Tamriel Unlimited. My brain on first read through read Unlimited as Unchained. Because of Age of Conan.
Because of Age of Conan. I think Dungeons and Dragons Online is DVO Unlimited. So I think I might have had that thought in mind.
So Elder Scrolls Online, Tamriel Unlimited, goes buy to play, and then console launch is going to be on June 9th. You'll be able to get it digitally through there as well. So, yeah, there you go. And you want to just pat your shoulder now?
Thank you. I told you so.
I feel like I have to sneeze so bad. I've been like rubbing my nose for like 3 minutes now. So I'm going to pull a line and give this solo shot up here, and I'm going to tell you something, Mr. Winter.
Okay.
In the words of Happy Gilmore, I'm stupid. You're smart.
No.
I was wrong. You were right. You were the best. I'm the worst. You are very good looking. I'm not attractive. But I do reserve the right to say that this is going free to play after they milk the hell out of console sales.
I don't know. I really honestly do think this is where it would stay. But...
I think it's where it stays too. I mean, once they go here, there really is no reason with their particular game to go any further at that point. It's not going to save them anything. You're either not making money on boxes, so making free-to-play doesn't help you anymore, whatever. All right, let's move over, do the bombs, and get the hell out of here for the week. Mr. Winter, you're up, sir.
All right, I'm going to give a bomb to Dungeons & Dragons. Not Dungeons & Dragons Online, not Dungeons & Dragons anything else, Dungeons & Dragons and the cool thing they're doing this year, like we've referenced this a little bit in the bit I did for Neverwinter a couple days ago, is how they're doing, they're taking their whole year, devoting it to we talked about this with DDO a while back, devoting it to the Temple of Elemental Evil. That's like their thing for the year. So it's like something they're doing across all their brands. They're doing a bunch of modules in the pen and paper game, and they're working with Neverwinter, working with Cryptic Perfect World, and also with Turbine to have Elemental Evil themed stuff going throughout the two MMOs that are out there, and that's really cool. I wish companies could do that a lot more with their licensees. I mean, we kind of do see that with major properties, like the Star Wars movies are coming out, so obviously there's going to be Star Wars toys, Star Wars books, Star Wars calendars, whatever, the new stuff, action figures, whatever. Would be. I almost thought I could get a hint that BioWare said they might have something related to the movies in their stuff, or there's going to be some sort of connection. I don't know. Obviously, they have to be a lot more secretive with all that sort of thing. But I do wish we could see a lot more of that with MMOs that are based on those kind of properties. That there could be actual working between them when you have a big thing like this going on, or that they can even create their own thing. Obviously, Dungeons & Dragons is kind of in a weird place that there are actually two D&D MMOs out there, but it would be neat to see if you could have more connections like this in the MMO world with real life or other properties, events, stuff.
Damn, that was like insightful and thought-provoking, and mine's really dumb now. I am going to make a change, though. In the show notes, I did put a dub bomb to World of Tanks personal missions being implemented, which are really cool. I'm enjoying the personal missions and the campaigns there. I think that's cool. But I wanted to make a change based on something that broke out today, because this is one of the MMORPGs that I kind of dive into periodically. It's one of my fallbacks, right? We all have those, the 2 or 3 games that when you get bored with your main game, let me jump into this one for a little while. And Ion is one of those for me. Ion, with an interview with MMORPG.com today, is implementing a new Abbey instance, one for each faction, or one for each race, no, not race. I meant faction. Elios, yeah, that would be factions. One for each that is kind of like an express lane. Now, they already have the express server as far as experience goes, but this is specifically designed at returning players that haven't logged in the last 30 days, and especially if you're higher than level 46, just kind of boosting you all the way to max level because of all the endgame stuff they've piled on then. That's not what I want to give the bomb for. I think it's cool, but it doesn't. It impacts a very select group. You can't have logged in for 30 days, and the quests in there start at level 46. You can go in at level 10, but the quests don't start until level 46. My da-bomb, though, is for a big change in Ion that players have been yelling for forever in that game. Mana stones will no longer all break on your gear when you fail to socket one. So when you have 3 done already and you socket that 4th and it fails and all of them break and you just want to throw your table,
really?
That's not going to happen anymore. Only the current one will break, which makes sense. It's the way it should have been. So da-bomb to finally getting it right. All right, viewer bombs this week. This one's from Ignat Adrian after reading a blog post on Gama Sutra by Sergei Titov. Oh boy, here we go. Pointed out by Jason in a tweet, though his tweets pointed at the comments on that blog post. I want to give an A-bomb to Infestation Survivor Stories. They do not deserve the number of copies sold of 2.8 million. I will admit they were very inspired when choosing the game's genre, but their success is only because of the current lack of choices for survival games, and those that are not that good. And because of the coverage the game got in the press, bad press, good press, it's just free advertising after all. Brings eyes to it, and when it's extremely bad press, curiosity takes over, and many are willing to buy it just to see for themselves instead of avoiding it. I'm not saying this is disappointed client or what Sergei Titov likes to call the vocal minority and haters. I've actively just avoided the game. But as a gamer, it is sad to see Infestation Survivor Stories, aka the War Z, doing so well after everything they did.
Yeah. I mean, he's right.
He's dead on. He or she is dead on.
I mean, they could have. Let's like we talk about it. I mean, SOE could have released H1Z1 like 6 months ago, and it would still be even if it was a complete pile of crap at that time. It would have been selling like hotcakes.
I agree.
Because that's what people wanted. And it's worth noting that on the DayZ site, it says they've sold 2.9 million copies, compared to 2.8 for.
Yeah, and we kind of had fun back and forth on what that number actually meant. You know, it's like, well, you could read that as really well for Infestation, or you could read that as very terrible for DayZ. It's like, how do you want to take that? Because one's in early access, one's launched, one's... So yeah, fun numbers. Next up, go for it. We're gonna treat this one as a bomb.
Just want to say two notes on the whole last note on DayZ and all that.
Yeah.
Dean Hall actually tweeted that, you know, how much of that 2.8 million is due to the press, and I responded to him. I'm like, dude, you got a 20 on Metacritic, so you know. Although maybe maybe like you were saying, he was talking about, you know, just getting press in general.
Yep.
And the other point is that when the H1Z1 servers were doing poorly, a friend of mine responded to me and said, "Oh, I wonder if Dean Hall's got something to do with this." and Dean Hall responded to that tweet. He's in my timeline now. Like, okay. He said he was on a plane like over the Indian Ocean or something, so wasn't involved.
Well, that's where the best internet connection is, isn't it?
Obviously, he got Wi-Fi on his plane. There you go. All right. Michael Lozelle gave us a Hall of Fame opinion, so we'll treat it like a weekly bomb. This is what you wrote, I suppose. Okay. His Hall of Fame bomb is, okay, number 1, he has Guild Wars 1 and 2, which isn't free to play.
Yeah, neither one was free to play. I mean, Guild Wars 1 had the trial, but that was it. So, okay,
we buy to play Hall of Fame, we'll definitely stick both Guild Wars games in there.
Yeah, well, because buy to play, we would need a fifth one. We would need a fifth one to come out.
Then number 2, he has League of Legends. All right.
Which you also had.
3 is Warframe, which, again, sort of hits the newness factor to me. So, it's big, but I don't know that it's necessarily huge. I don't know. Rift, he has at number 4, which, as an MMORPG goes, it's pretty good as a free-to-play game. Again, only been free-to-play for, what now, almost 2 years?
Yeah.
So, you know, kind of got a little bit of that newness to it. And then 5, Path of Exile, which will definitely be, if I ever keep doing this, it'll definitely be on there.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you even called that game specifically out in the piece as the only reason it's not here is because of how new it is. Yeah. It got our honorable mention, if you will.
So to speak.
Joachim Dorfman says, I think that MU Online and MapleStory should have been on that list, again referencing your Hall of Fame. And V2099 says, duh bomb for MMO Bomb for giving their honest bombs without the fear of any bombs blowing up in their faces.
Oh, we have the fear.
Oh, we have the fear. We have the fear.
Good at not showing it.
And it has before. It has before. I remember I did a video. There's one video that's still up that I just wish would go away, right? We all have those ones. Mine is an Alad's Online Is It Pay to Win video where I went through my logic of not calling Alad's Online Pay to Win. And my biggest mistake in that is that I didn't have enough experience in the end game portion of Alad's Online at the time to realize that it's extremely pay to win. That one blew up. I also, at one point, we did a free-to-play cast before Scarlet Blade came out where we were talking about their advertising material. And their whole community went nuts and hated me because of that show, because we gave them a rough time for their advertising material. And we were getting accused of making judgments on a game we hadn't even played when the whole commentary was how ridiculous the advertising was. So it does blow up in our faces from time to time.
Yeah, just to mention on the Alad's thing too, a lot of free-to-play games do that. They
Yeah.
seem fine until for the first 50 hours, and you get to the end game. And I'm gonna defend us by saying that we can't spend 50 hours playing a game on a review and then go through all the dungeons. So.
Well, and I beat myself up a little bit about that one because the whole pay-to-win aspect at the end of Alad's, I was aware of the systems in place.
Okay.
I'm talking specifically about the runes or the gems or whatever the hell they call it for your gear at endgame.
Okay.
And you do have the ability to buy those with gold in game, and so on the surface, it's not pay-to-win. Because you can get it in game with in-game gold. Somebody will put it on the market house.
3 hours.
But what I didn't realize was the sheer amount of time you would have to invest to actually feasibly do that. So yeah, I got that one wrong. I got it dead wrong.
I actually just did my Battle Line article, and I kind of mentioned that. I say, it seems like you can buy it all with the stuff, but maybe later it's going to be hard. So, I'm at least aware of that, and I'm kind of putting it in. So.
Question of the week last week. Is there a market for Android gaming on television with Ouya's less than stellar performance and Snail Games' announcement about their Android console and smartphones coming up? Is this a market you're interested in? What did Greater Divinity have to say?
Greater Divinity says no. No. Never been interested in one. There's a whopping 2 to 3 Android games I play with any frequency, a ridiculous fishing, giant boulder of death, and the third varies on my mood. I don't know why you'd play anything else after you have giant boulder of death. And then I only really play them in the bathroom or on the train.
Thanks.
Well, maybe in the bathroom on the train. If he's on the train, anyway. It says, when I'm at home, I have a million better games to play on my PC or PS3 or roommate's PS4 now. I have zero interest in sitting on a couch to play my Android or spending any money on a dedicated system to play them. They're already on my bloody phone, and a bigger screen isn't going to make them any more enjoyable given the quality of visuals and mechanics of the games. And yeah, it is kind of a weird thing for them to go for this because the appeal of a phone game or an Android game or whatever is that it's portable. You take it with you and you go somewhere. So what's the purpose of being able to play that portable game on your big screen, your computer monitor, TV, whatever? I kind of agree with them. I'm not sure that that's really there to any great extent.
Terra Nova says it was great to see Brim make a return on last week's episode. His joystick comment had me in stitches. Oh, that's my boy. Love that dude. For the question of the week, as someone that has an Android phone and tablet and has dabbled in one or two of the free-to-play games that are offered on them, would I want a gaming console that provides that type of gaming on my big screen TV? The answer is no. For phones and tablets, it's fine. When I'm on the commute to work or anywhere else, I can jump in, play around till the journey's over, and games suit that style of play. I personally don't find them to be the ones that I would actually spend any real length of time in front of my TV to play like I would with a PlayStation or a PC game. And Terra Nova has been a long time MMO bomber. Terra Nova, I think, all the way back from Free to Playcast episode 1, actually. And I agree 100%. And I think this next one sums the whole conversation up quite nicely.
All right, this is from Black Star. My opinion, Android gaming on my TV in one word. Nope.
Question of the week for this week. Even with the changes made, Are H1Z1's airdrops pay to win? Tell us yes or no and why in the comments below. Make sure you like and subscribe. Come on over to mmobomb.com. Check out all the other great content we've got there. We're your home for free-to-play gaming news. Mr. Jason Winter, where can everybody follow you?
Find me on the Twitter at Winter Informal, streaming twitch.tv/JasonWinter, blogging jasonwinter.wordpress.com.
I'm Mike Byrne. That's the media tab. I'm Mike Byrne, aka Magicman. You can follow me on Twitter below there, right at Magicman1, MAGICKMANN1. I throw off the spelling everywhere just to keep Jason on his toes. Until next time, gang, stay safe. We'll see you out on the servers.